Adrian didn't just drop the glass. He locked eyes with her, smiled, a slow, cruel curving of his lips, and opened his fingers. He didn't care about the crystal. He wanted to see her on her knees. He wanted to see her panic. Gravity took over. The heavy tumbler tipped, vomiting ice water into the air. Maya moved on instinct. Her body, hardened by years of dodging creditors and scraping for tips, lunged forward. She hit the floor hard, her knees slamming against the marble. Water splashed across her face, blinding her, but her hand snapped shut. She caught it. Inches from the ground. Not a shard broken. She stood up slowly, wiping water from her cheek with a calm she didn't feel. Her heart was hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird, but her hand was steady as she placed the wet glass back on the desk. Adrian's smirk vanished. He looked at the water soaking her grey uniform, then at the unbroken glass. He looked almost annoyed that she hadn't humiliated herself. Messy, he sneered, eyeing the wet cuff of her sleeve. But fast. You're hired. He turned his back on her, dismissing her like furniture. Don't think this makes you special. You're just another pair of hands until I find a reason to fire you. Get out. Maya bowed to his back. As she walked to the service elevator, the submissive mask slipped. Her eyes weren't lowered, they were burning. Enjoy the view from the throne while you can, Adrian, she thought. Because I'm not here to dust it. I'm here to take it back. The staff quarters were a stark contrast to the penthouse. It was a small, windowless box behind the kitchen that smelled of industrial bleach, damp concrete, and lost dreams. Maya sat on the narrow cot, the adrenaline finally fading into a dull ache. She pulled a small, tarnished silver locket from her pocket and popped it open. Her father's face smiled back at her, a photo taken before the bankruptcy. Before Adrian Thorne stole his patent and drove him to an early grave. I'm in, Dad, she whispered, her thumb brushing the glass. I'm inside the beast. She pulled a tiny, translucent earpiece from the hem of her skirt and inserted it carefully, shaking her hair loose to cover it. Liam? You there? I'm here, her friend's voice crackled through the static, sounding distant and tinny. Tell me you got the access codes. Maya scoffed quietly, eyeing the locked door. I'm the maid, Liam. I have access to the floor polish and the trash. But the office? It's a fortress. Biometrics on the door. Voice recognition on the server. That's the Adrian Thorne special, Liam muttered. Paranoid. Dangerous. Maya, the schematics show a secondary server node in the library. If you can get in there for 5 minutes. I can't just waltz in, Maya cut him off, her voice tight. He watches everything. He doesn't sleep. He stalks the halls like a ghost. Then you have to wait, Liam said. Wait for a mistake. Maya touched the locket again, her thumb tracing the glass over her father's face. He doesn't make mistakes, Liam. He makes victims. The first 2 weeks were a masterclass in psychological warfare. Maya learned quickly that Adrian didn't just want a maid, he wanted a punching bag to absorb his stress. The days blurred into a montage of calculated cruelty. On Tuesday, she scrubbed the grout of the marble staircase with a toothbrush while Adrian walked past, deliberately stepping on her fingers as he checked his stock portfolio. He didn't apologize. He didn't even look down. Maya didn't flinch, though tears of pain pricked her eyes. On Thursday, she spent 3 hours ironing his shirts. He inspected one, found a microscopic wrinkle on the cuff, and threw the hot iron onto the floor near her feet. Do it again, was all he said, walking away without a backward glance. By the second week, the security guards were placing bets on how long she would last. New girl's tough, one guard muttered as she passed them in the hall with a pile of linens heavy enough to break her back. "Give it time," the other replied, laughing. "The boss is in a mood today. Stock prices dropped. He's looking for someone to kick." Maya kept walking, her face a mask of indifference, but her eyes scanned the keypad the guard used to open the security door. 1-9-8-4, she memorized it instantly. It was the year her father was born. The irony wasn't lost on her. That night, the tension in the penthouse reached a breaking point. Adrian was eating dinner alone at a table set for 12. The room was silent, the only sound the scraping of his knife against the china. The isolation was palpable, a cold vacuum that sucked the warmth out of the room. Maya entered to pour the wine, moving with the silent grace she had perfected. "Stop," Adrian commanded without looking up. Maya froze, the bottle hovering over his glass. "You're wearing perfume," he said, his voice flat. "No, sir," Maya replied softly. "It's the soap from the staff laundry." "It smells like poverty," Adrian sneered, finally looking at her. He stood up, towering over her, his shadow falling across her face. "It ruins the palate of the Pinot Noir. This bottle costs £4,000. Do you know how long you'd have to scrub floors to afford a sip of this?" 3 years, sir," Maya said, her voice steady. "And you'd still be unworthy of it." He grabbed the bottle from her hand. He didn't pour it into the glass. Instead, he poured the dark red liquid onto the pristine white carpet. It spread like a bloodstain, soaking into the silk fibers. "Clean it up," he ordered. Maya turned toward the kitchen to get a towel. "No," Adrian's voice stopped her, sharp as a whip. "Not with a towel." He pointed to her white apron. "Use your uniform. And do it on your knees. I want to see you scrub." The humiliation hung heavy in the air, thick enough to choke on. This was the moment most people would quit. This was the moment most people would break. But Maya slowly lowered herself to the floor. She dipped the hem of her apron into the wine and began to scrub. Let him have his moment, she thought, the anger burning cold in her chest. Let him feel big. Because a man looking down at the floor never sees the knife coming for his throat. As she scrubbed, her face inches from the carpet, she noticed Adrian's discarded suit jacket draped over the chair next to her. The inner pocket gaped slightly open. Inside, she saw the corner of a red file folder. The stamp on the edge was unmistakable, confidential, more patent, destruction protocol. Her heart hammered against her ribs. It was there. The proof that he hadn't just invented the technology, he had actively destroyed her father's work to claim it. "You missed a spot," Adrian said from above her, oblivious to what she had just seen. Maya scrubbed harder, her eyes locked on the file. She needed a plan. She needed a distraction. And she needed it now. "I apologize, sir," Maya said, rising to her feet. As she stood, she feigned a stumble, her hand shooting out to steady herself against the chair. "Clumsy oaf!" Adrian barked. "Forgive me, my knees are weak from scrubbing," she gasped, bowing her head. But in that split second of chaos, her hand had already done its work. The red file was gone from his jacket, pucked securely into the waistband of her apron, hidden beneath the stiffness of the fabric. "Get out of my sight," Adrian disgusted, waving his hand. "And burn that apron. I don't want to see the stain." "Yes, sir," Maya whispered. She walked out of the dining room, her legs trembling, not from fear but from adrenaline. She walked past the guards, past the cameras, and down into the safety of the laundry room. Once the door clicked shut, she pulled the file out. She opened it. It wasn't just a patent. It was a hit list. And her name was next. Liam, she whispered into her earpiece, her voice shaking with rage. Wake up. We're not just stealing a company anymore. We're going to war. The laundry room was the only place in the penthouse where the hum of the ventilation system drowned out the oppressive silence of the house. Maya sat on top of a washing machine, her legs pulled up to her chest, the red file open on her lap. Under the harsh fluorescent light, the documents looked innocuous, just paper and ink, but they were a roadmap of destruction. Liam, are you seeing this? She whispered, adjusting the angle of her phone camera so her friend could see the pages. I see it. Liam's voice came through the earpiece, no longer sounding sarcastic. He sounded terrified. Maya, this isn't just corporate espionage. This is a hit list. Look at the dates. Every time someone got close to exposing the Alio's flaw, they had an accident. A car crash. A sudden bankruptcy. A fire. Maya turned the page. Her finger traced a name near the bottom. Arthur Moore. Status, eliminated. He didn't just steal the company, she said, her voice trembling with a cold, hard rage. He murdered my father. The stroke was stress-induced, they said. But Adrian, he orchestrated the pressure. He cut off the funding, froze the accounts, sent the lawyers. He hunted him down. You need to get out of there, Liam said urgently. If he finds out who you are, you're next on that list. I'm already on the list, Maya replied, staring at the last entry. Maya Moore. Status, pending location. She snapped the file shut and shoved it deep inside a pile of dirty linens destined for the incinerator chute. I'm not leaving, Liam. I'm the only one close enough to finish this. The file proves motive, but it doesn't prove the fraud. I need the original source code. I need the server. The server is air-gapped, Liam said. Meaning it's not connected to the internet. You have to physically plug in. And the only port is in the library, behind the false panel in the fireplace. Tonight, Maya said. He has the charity gala. He'll be gone for 4 hours. Be careful, Maya. A man like that, he never leaves his fortress unguarded. The next 6 hours were a blur of calculated subservience. Maya moved through the penthouse like a shadow, polishing surfaces that were already gleaming, bowing to a man she wanted to strangle. Adrian was in a foul mood, pacing the living room in his tuxedo, screaming at his publicist on the phone. I don't care about the optics. Adrian shouted, throwing a heavy crystal paperweight across the room. It smashed into the wall, inches from where Mrs. Gable, the head housekeeper, was dusting. Fix the stock price, or I'll fix your career. Mrs. Gable didn't flinch, but Maya saw the older woman's hands shaking as she picked up the shards of glass. Leave it, Adrian snapped at Mrs. Gable. Let the new girl do it. She has a talent for cleaning up messes. He turned his gaze to Maya. You. Sophie. My cufflinks are loose. Fix them. Maya approached him. She could smell the expensive scotch on his breath and the metallic tang of his cologne. She reached out, her fingers steady, and adjusted the gold links on his wrists. For a moment, she was close enough to feel his pulse. It was slow, calm. The rage was just a performance for him, he enjoyed the fear he created. You have very cold hands, Adrian murmured, looking down at her. Like a corpse. Circulation issues, sir, Maya lied smoothly, tightening the cuff. He grunted, pulling away. Keep the house spotless. If I come back and find a single speck of dust, you'll wish you were a corpse. He grabbed his coat and stormed out toward the private elevator. The doors slid shut, and the penthouse exhaled. He's gone, Mrs. Gable whispered, sagging against the wall. Thank God. Go to bed, Mrs. Gable, Maya said softly. I'll finish the glass. Be careful, child, the older woman warned, her eyes darting to the cameras in the corners of the ceiling. The walls have eyes. Once Mrs. Gable was gone, Maya didn't clean the glass. She moved. She sprinted to her quarters, changed into dark leggings and a black hoodie, and pulled her hair back. She checked her watch. 8:15 p.m. The gala speeches started at 8:30. She had exactly 2 hours before he might return early. She slipped into the library. The room was dark, illuminated only by the ambient glow of the city lights below. It smelled of old paper and leather. She moved to the massive stone fireplace. Liam, I'm at the fireplace, she whispered. Okay, Liam directed. Feel under the mantelpiece. Right side. There should be a latch. Maya ran her fingers along the cold stone. Nothing. Nothing. Click. A hidden panel popped open. Inside, a single USB port blinked with a faint red light. Got it, she said, plugging in the decryption drive Liam had given her. A progress bar appeared on the small screen of the device. 0%. 5%. It's slow, Maya hissed. It's crawling. It's a terabyte of data, Maya. It's encrypted with military-grade keys. It's going to take time. Just hold position. Maya crouched in the dark, watching the numbers tick up. 15%. 20%. The silence of the apartment was heavy. Every creak of the building settling in the wind sounded like a footstep. She checked her watch. 8:45 p.m. 40%. Suddenly, the elevator chimed in the hallway. Maya froze. Her blood turned to ice. Liam, she breathed. Someone's here. It can't be him, Liam said frantically. He's on stage right now. I'm watching the live feed of the gala. Maya crept to the library door and peered through the crack. It wasn't Adrian. It was Marcus Vance, Adrian's vice president. He was stumbling, drunk, accompanied by 2 security guards. I forgot the thing, Marcus slurred, waving a key card. The boss said get the portfolio. Sir, Mr. Thorne said no one enters the library, one guard said nervously. I'm the VP. Marcus shouted, shoving the guard. Open the door. Maya scrambled back. There was nowhere to go. The windows were sealed. The only exit was the door Marcus was about to open. Liam, I'm trapped, she whispered. The dumb waiter, Liam said. In the corner. Behind the velvet curtain. It connects to the kitchen. Maya grabbed the drive. 85%. It's not done. Take it. Corrupted data is better than no data. She ripped the drive out. The red light on the panel turned solid green. Transfer complete? She didn't have time to check. She dug behind the curtain just as the library doors banged open. Marcus stumbled in, flipping on the lights. Where is it? Where's the damn portfolio? Maya squeezed herself into the small service elevator shaft. It was tight, smelling of dust and grease. She pulled the rope, and the small box began to descend silently into the walls. Through the crack in the door, she saw Marcus stop. He looked at the fireplace. The panel she had opened was still slightly ajar. What the? Marcus muttered. He walked over to it. Maya held her breath as she descended into the darkness, the light from the library fading above her. She landed in the kitchen with a soft thud. She rolled out, scrambled to her feet, and ran for the staff quarters. She stripped off the black clothes, hid them under her mattress, and threw on her nightgown just as the door to the staff quarters burst open. It wasn't Marcus. It was Adrian. He stood in the doorway, still in his tuxedo, his chest heaving. He hadn't been on stage. He had come back. He looked at Maya, who was sitting on her bed, feigning sleepiness, rubbing her eyes. "Sir," she asked, her voice trembling. "Is everything all right?" Adrian walked into the small room. He looked out of place, a predator in a cage. He held up a black glove. "I found this," he said softly, "on the floor of my library just now." He dropped the glove on her bed. It was a woman's size. Small. "Marcus is an idiot," Adrian whispered, leaning down so his face was inches from hers. "He thinks he left the panel open. But Marcus wears leather gloves. This is cotton." Maya looked at the glove. She realized with a sick sinking feeling that she must have dropped it when she ripped the drive out. "I don't know whose that is, sir," Maya said, meeting his gaze. "Don't you?" Adrian smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "You're the only one in this house with hands small enough to fit this, Sophie." He straightened up, adjusting his bow tie. "Get dressed," he said, his voice turning pleasant, conversational. "Bring your things. We're going for a drive." "A drive, sir?" "It's midnight." "I know," Adrian said, turning to the door. "But I find the city so beautiful at night. Especially from the roof of the factory. It's where I took your father before he had his stroke. It seems only fitting I take you there too." He stopped at the door and looked back. The mask was completely gone. He knew. "Don't make me drag you, Maya," he said. "It's undignified." Maya sat on the bed as the door closed. She felt the weight of the USB drive in her pocket. She had the proof. But now, she was in the hands of the killer. "Liam," she whispered, touching the earpiece one last time. "He knows. I'm going to the roof." "Maya, don't go. Police are en route." "They won't make it in time," she said, standing up and smoothing her nightgown. She looked at herself in the cracked mirror. She didn't look like a maid anymore. She looked like a soldier. "This ends tonight." The ride to the old factory was silent, a suffocating vacuum of tension inside the sleek, armored sedan. Adrian drove with the same casual arrogance he applied to everything else, one hand draped loosely over the steering wheel, the other tapping a rhythm against his thigh. Maya sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded in her lap, clutching the small USB drive so tightly the edges bit into her skin. They pulled into the rusted gates of the industrial park. This was where it had started. The More Technologies factory, a sprawling skeleton of steel and concrete that Adrian had gutted and rebranded. Rain hammered against the windshield, distorting the world outside into smears of grey and black. "Do you know why I kept this place?" Adrian asked, killing the engine. The silence that rushed in was deafening. "I could have sold the land for millions. But I liked the view." "You kept it as a trophy," Maya said, her voice steady. "Like the locket." "Trophies are important," Adrian replied, stepping out of the car. He opened her door, offering a hand with mocking chivalry. "They remind us who won." Maya ignored his hand and stepped out into the rain. The wind was biting, whipping her hair across her face. Adrian gestured toward the main building, a looming shadow against the stormy sky. He guided her not to the entrance, but to the external service elevator, a rusted metal cage that clung to the side of the building like a parasite. "The roof," he said. "The air is clearer up there." As the cage rattled upward, the city spread out below them, a grid of lights indifferent to the drama unfolding in the cage. Adrian leaned against the rusted mesh, watching her. You have his eyes, he mused. Arthur's. Always looking for a way out. He stood right here, you know. 5 years ago. I told him I was going to acquire his patent for pennies on the dollar. He cried. Actually cried. He didn't cry because of the money, Maya said, the anger finally cracking through her calm facade. He cried because he knew you would weaponize his work. Alios was meant to provide clean energy, not to be sold as a military targeting system. Semantics, Adrian waved a hand. He was weak. You're stronger. You almost had me, Maya. The Maid act? Brilliant. I actually believed you were that pathetic. The elevator shuddered to a halt at the top. The roof was a flat expanse of concrete, slick with rain, dotted with massive ventilation fans that churned the air with a low, rhythmic thrum. There were no rails on the edge, just a sheer drop into the darkness. Adrian walked to the edge, looking down. Give me the drive, Maya. Maya stepped out of the cage. The wind was fierce here, threatening to push her over. And if I do? You let me go. Adrian turned, and for the first time, she saw the gun. It was a small, silver pistol, held with the same casual indifference as his wine glass. No, he said softly. But if you give it to me, I'll make it quick. You slipped. It's a tragic accident. The grieving daughter returns to the site of her father's failure and takes her own life. The press will eat it up. Maya looked at the gun, then at him. She reached into her pocket and pulled out the USB drive. It was small, black, innocuous. It held the proof of fraud, the blueprints, the emails ordering the harassment of her family. You want it? She asked. Bring it here. Maya walked forward slowly. She stopped 5 feet from him. The rain soaked her nightgown, chilling her to the bone, but her blood was on fire. You think destroying this destroys the truth, she said. I think history is written by the winners, Adrian smiled. And I have never lost. Maya extended her hand. Adrian reached out to take the drive. At the last second, she pulled her hand back and tossed the drive over his shoulder. It spun through the air, glinting in the lightning, and vanished over the edge of the roof. Adrian's eyes went wide. For a split second, the mask slipped. He lunged toward the edge, instinctively trying to catch it, but he stopped himself, teetering on the precipice. He spun around, his face twisted in a snarl of pure animal rage. You stupid little, he raised the gun. You just signed your death warrant for nothing. That was your leverage. That was your life. I don't need leverage, Maya said. She wasn't backing away. She was standing her ground. And I don't need the drive. What? Maya tapped the earpiece she was still wearing. Liam? Did you get it? Clear as day, Liam's voice boomed, not in her ear, but from the massive PA speakers mounted on the factory towers. Adrian froze. The sound echoed across the rooftop, bouncing off the steel. What is this? Adrian shouted, spinning around. I told you, Adrian, Maya said, her voice rising above the wind. I didn't come here to negotiate. I came here to broadcast. From the shadows of the stairwell door, a red light blinked. A camera. You jammed the Wi-Fi in the penthouse, Maya said, stepping closer to him. But out here? The signal is perfect. We've been live for 10 minutes. The drive I threw away? It was empty. The real data was uploaded while we were in the car. Adrian looked at his phone. He pulled it out with a shaking hand. The screen was flooded with notifications. Global trending, #Thorne confession. The video of him admitting to Arthur's destruction in the elevator. The audio of him threatening to kill Maya just seconds ago. It was all there. "No," Adrian whispered. "No, I own the police. I own the servers." "You don't own the internet," Maya said. Sirens began to wail in the distance. Not one, but dozens. A cacophony of justice rising from the streets below. Blue and red lights began to reflect off the wet concrete of the roof. Adrian looked at the lights, then at Maya. The arrogance drained out of him, leaving something hollow and desperate. He looked at the gun in his hand. Then he looked at Maya. "I can still end you," he hissed. "If I go down, I take the last more with me." He raised the gun, aiming right at her heart. "Goodbye, Maya." He pulled the trigger. Click. Adrian stared at the gun. He pulled it again. Click. Maya didn't flinch. She just watched him with a look of pity. "You really didn't notice?" she asked softly. "Notice what?" he screamed, shaking the weapon. "When you grabbed my arm in the staff quarters. When you dragged me out." Maya held up her hand. In her palm sat the magazine of the pistol. "You were so busy enjoying your power, you didn't feel me pick your pocket. I entered it in the car." Adrian stared at the magazine. Then he threw the empty gun at her feet with a scream of frustration. He looked around wildly. The sirens were at the gate now. Men were shouting below. He looked at the edge of the roof. "Don't do it," Maya said. "That's the coward's way out." Arthur didn't run. He faced the ruin you caused him. Adrian looked at the drop, then back at her. His eyes were wild, tears mixing with the rain. "I can't go to prison. I am Adrian Thorne. I am the Zenith." "You are a thief," Maya said. "And it's time to pay the bill." The roof access door burst open. Armed police swarmed onto the wet concrete, flashlights cutting through the darkness. "Drop to your knees," a voice commanded. "Hands on your head." Adrian stood frozen. For a moment, he looked like he might fight. But then, slowly, the fight left him. He sank to his knees in the puddles. The posture was familiar. It was the same position he had forced Maya into a dozen times. An officer rushed forward, cuffing his hands behind his back. As they hauled him up, dragging him toward the door, Adrian locked eyes with Maya one last time. "Who are you?" he whispered, his voice broken. Maya picked up the empty gun from a puddle and handed it to a police officer. She straightened her drenched nightgown, standing tall against the storm. "I'm the maid," she said. "I cleaned up the mess." 1 month later. The sun streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Zenith penthouse, but the air was different now. Warmer. The dark, oppressive velvet curtains had been replaced with sheer linen. The smell of stale scotch and fear was gone, replaced by the scent of fresh lilies. Maya sat behind the massive oak desk. She wore a tailored navy suit, her hair loose. She wasn't Sophie anymore. The intercom buzzed. "Ms. Moore." It was Mrs. Gable's voice. "The board of directors is ready for you." "Thank you, Mrs. Gable." "Send them in." The heavy doors opened. The same men who had laughed at her when she dropped the wine walked in. They looked nervous. They wouldn't meet her eyes. Marcus Vance wasn't there, he was awaiting trial for complicity. Maya stood up. The room went silent. "Gentlemen," she began, her voice calm and authoritative. "We have a lot of work to do. Thorne Industries is no more. From today, we are more technologies. And we are going to release the Alios safety protocols to the public domain." "But Ms. Moore," one investor stammered. "That will cost us billions in exclusive contracts." It will save lives, Maya corrected him. And that is the new currency of this company. She walked around the desk. She stopped in front of the spot on the carpet where Adrian had forced her to her knees. The stain was gone, replaced by a fresh rug. She looked at the investor. Do we have a problem with that? No, the man said quickly. No problem. Good. Maya walked to the window. She looked out at the city. It didn't look like a fortress anymore. It looked like a home. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a new locket. She opened it. Inside was the same photo of her father, but this time, she had added a small inscription on the opposite side. The house is clean. She smiled, closing the locket. On the desk, a crystal glass of water sat on a coaster. Maya picked it up. She held it over the edge of the desk. She opened her hand. The glass fell. But this time, she didn't catch it. Smash! The sound rang out, sharp and final. The investors jumped. Mrs. Gable, standing by the door, just smiled. Maya looked down at the shards glittering in the sunlight. She didn't scramble to pick them up. She simply stepped over them. Meeting adjourned, she said. And that is how the maid took back her throne. If you enjoyed this story, please hit the like button and subscribe to Billionaire Tales. We upload new cinematic stories every week. Don't miss the next scandal.